Hello everyone, I am Nitij, and in today's video we will see how to create a custom context menu component in React and also how to style it using Tailwind CSS. So this is the demo of the finished project. When we will right click on this div, then the context menu will open up from the mouse position, and the actions which are listed are associated with individual functions. So when we will click on any of these actions, then the function is going to be called. In this case, the functions are simply logging a message to the console indicating what action is clicked. So let's get started and see how we can build this context menu in React. This is a boilerplate React application created using the create React app command, and I have also installed Tailwind CSS as well. To create the context menu component, first I will create a new folder in the src folder with the name components, and inside this folder I will create a context menu wrapper component folder. Now let's create an index.jsx file inside it. Now I am going to use a shortcut to create the boilerplate arrow function component, and let's just name it as context menu wrapper. Now in this context menu wrapper we are going to do a few things. First, we are going to add a couple of state variables which are going to indicate the visibility state and the position of our context menu. We will also add a ref which is going to be associated with the div of the context menu, and then we will return the JSX for our menu itself. So let's get started with adding our state variables. So the first one is going to be visible, and then set visible, and initially it is going to be initialized with a false value. Next, I'm going to create the state for the menu's position. So position, and then set position equals to use state, and for the position I'm going to initialize with both x and y as 0 because this is going to be updated when the user is going to right click. So x as 0 and y as 0. Now let's create a wrapper ref. So wrapper ref equals to use ref. Now this context menu wrapper is going to wrap all the children which when right clicked are going to show our context menu. So because of that reason we need to add the arguments for first the children and then for the menu items. Now I'm going to remove this text from over here, and this outer div container is going to have the ref attribute. So the ref is going to be our wrapper ref. Now how do we make sure that when this div is going to be right clicked, then our context menu is going to appear? So what we have to do is we have to handle the on context menu event handler and also the documents click event handler. So when on context menu event will be fired, then this will mean that the user has right clicked on this div, and in that case we can simply set the visible state value to true. So let's create a function for that. So const handle context menu. This is going to be an arrow function with the event argument. So first let's call event dot prevent default. Now when this wrapper div is going to be right clicked, then first we need to fetch the current mouse x and y values. So set position, and the x value is going to be event dot page x, and the y value is going to be the value for the page y property value. So event dot page y, and then finally we can simply set the visible state value to true, which will simply indicate that when this wrapper div will be right clicked, then the menu is going to be visible. So apart from the handle context menu, we also need to handle the documents click event. So for that we can use the use effect hook. So use effect, and inside use effect we can simply call document dot add event listener. The event is going to be the click event, and what we should do is we should ideally create a separate function to handle the documents click event, because then we can use that function for the cleanup as well. So const handle click equals to a new function. This is simply going to set the visible state value to false to hide our context menu. And then let's use this handle click function over here, and when this component is going to be unmounted, then we can provide a cleanup function by using the return statement of this effect hook function. So document dot remove event listener, the event is the click event and the function is the handle click function. And for the dependency array, we are going to provide an empty array, which will simply mean that this effect hook function is only going to be run for the first time when the component is loaded. Okay, now it's time to render our context menu wrappers children. So let's render the children, and next we can render the context menu based on its visible state value. So if the menu is visible, then we can simply return the context menu div. So for our context menu div, first I'm going to provide the style attribute. So I'm using style instead of Tailwind CSS to set the top and left CSS values for our context menu, because with Tailwind we cannot use dynamic class names. To use any dynamic CSS values, we need to set them explicitly using either the style attribute or custom classes. So style is going to be top is going to be our position states X value, and left is going to be our position states Y value. So for top we can use the template string. So position dot X, actually it is not going to be X because top is going to indicate the Y axis. So top is going to be position dot Y and then PX. Similarly we can use the position dot X for left. So left is going to be position dot X. Let's also add the styling information for our context menu div by using Tailwind's utility classes. Now this div is going to contain the context menu items, and this can be done by using array.map over this items array. So items.map, and then for the callback function it is going to accept the argument for the current item and for the index. So let's return a button for each item. So button, the button text is going to be item dot label, and when the button is going to be clicked, then we will simply call items dot action. So on click equals to, hold on, a function is going to be called. But here's the thing, we will also need to close this context menu when any items action is executed. So to do that, let's create a custom function to handle each items click. So const handle item click is going to be a new function, which is first going to set the visible state value to false, and then it is going to execute the action, which we can provide via this handle item click functions argument. So action. All right, now over here for this buttons on click event, we can simply call handle item click, and then we can provide the item dot action as the argument. Now because we are mapping over the items and only this button is going to be returned, we need to provide the key as well. So the key is going to be the index, and let's also provide the styling information for the individual buttons. So I'm going to add the Tailwind classes. Let's wrap the code lines so that you can see everything. And that is pretty much everything we need to do for our context menu wrapper component. Now to use this component inside the app component, first I'm going to remove the stuff that we are not going to need. Let's remove this class name as well. Now let's just import our context menu wrapper. Now first we need to decide the context menu items or the actions, what they are going to be. So for that I'm going to create a new array with the name items. So items collection is going to contain individual objects for each context menu item. So we can add the label for the actions. So let's just call it first action, and we can also provide the action, which is going to be a function. Now this function can do whatever it needs to do based on the context menu item. So for this code example, I'm just going to log to the console the action which the user has selected. So console.log and first action triggered. Alright, now I'm just going to copy and paste this first item for two more actions. Let's just call them as second action. So second action triggered and third action triggered. Alright, now let's just use our context menu wrapper. So context menu wrapper, and the items are the ones which we created. Now for the child of this context menu wrapper, I'm just going to add a div which is simply going to say right click on me. Now let's also add some styling using Tailwind for the parent div and also for our div which is going to be right clicked. Now I think this is all we need to do to test our context menu wrapper within the app component. So let's just execute the command npm and then start. So there seems to be an error with our context menu wrapper component, and I think this is a typo. So let's just go and fix it. So the problem is over here with items.map. Let's just use correct syntax, and now let's check. This is how our app component is looking. This is the div which we need to right click. So I'm just going to right click on it by opening the console. Let's click on the first action. Let's now click on the second action of the context menu, and let's now click on the third action. So it seems our context menu is working as expected. Wherever we are right clicking, the context menu is opening up over there. Now when we will click anywhere else on the document, then the context menu will simply close. So our events are also working correctly. And that, my friends, how we can build a custom context menu in React using Tailwind CSS. I hope you found this tutorial helpful and it adds value to your React projects. If you enjoyed this video and learned something new, then please consider subscribing to stay updated with more coding tutorials and tips. Your support helps me to create more content that helps you. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next video.